Good evening, this is Brastax. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Katchatheevu row is now escalating into a major political showdown between the BJP and the DMK. Now, one part of it is absolutely diplomatic, no question about it. One part of it is historic. But what if the entire purpose of this controversy was to show up the DMK politically? Now, for a party that claims to be the custodian of Dravidian ideology and Tamil values, it is very apparent from this RTI reply and in the conversations that Mr. Keval Singh, who was the then External Affairs Secretary, had with the then Tamil Nadu Chief Minister, Mr. Karunanidhi, that Mr. Karunanidhi did very little to stop the giving away of an island by the then Indira government to the Sri Lankans. Where was the Tamil pride in that? Also, the more real issue, which is of course the detention, the arrests and even the shooting of Indian fishermen, Tamil fishermen at the hands of Sri Lanka. If Kachchatheevu was not given away, is it possible to have stopped these atrocities? And today, at a time, and clearly this was not the case in 1974, but certainly in 2024, the Chinese threat in the Indian Ocean region is real, it's present, and it is the most preeminent threat in this region. What if tomorrow the Sri Lankan government decides that they're inviting the Chinese for exploration around Katchatheevu? Would then the historic blunder of 1974 have to be revisited? But first, the story so far.
कच्छाथीवू टापू है, द्वीप है। वो द्वीप भारत का हिस्सा था, लेकिन कांग्रेस ने उसको श्रीलंका को दे दिया।
This is my honorable friend from the DMK was just now talking about Katchatheevu, the island. It appears to me that the DMK thinks that probably they can desperately cling to this issue and survive in Tamil Nadu.
एक ऐसी भूमि जो भारत और तमिल का एक हिस्सा था, उसको कंसीलमेंट, कंस्पिरेसी और कल्यूजन से कांग्रेस और डीएमके के प्रथम परिवार ने सौंप दिया थाली में.
Why are you making up something after 50 years? Why are you not talking about what happened in the last 2-3 years?
प्रधानमंत्री जी तथ्यों को तोड़ मरोड़ के पेश करते हैं, होमवर्क करते नहीं हैं.
All right, so the crux of this matter lies in some of the explosive details that have come out from this 31-page RTI reply. This RTI was filed by the state BJP president, Mr. Nirmala, to which the government of India has responded. A lot of this is in the public domain, but now new details have emerged from that RTI. This was, again, part of the conversation that the then Foreign Secretary, Mr. Keval Singh, had with Mr. Karunanidhi, who was the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. This was in 1974, prior to the agreement. Now, as per this RTI, Mr. Keval Singh had told Mr. Karunanidhi that Sri Lanka was putting pressure to refer this issue to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ. That Sri Lanka was putting pressure to settle this issue before the end of 1974 because the Tamil Tigers issue had reached a sort of a boiling point back then. There is a strong pro-China lobby that was present in Sri Lanka back then, and Mr. Keval Singh had told Mr. Karunanidhi that the pro-China lobby there in Sri Lanka was eager to take advantage of the tensions between Colombo and New Delhi. Also, Mr. Keval Singh, in a way, dissing India's own case, if it were to go to the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, he said that it would embarrass India if the matter went to the ICJ. Further delaying the issue, according to him, was not in India's favor. So, in a sense, the Foreign Secretary at that time did not even believe that India had a case if India went to the International Court of Justice. India wanted to avoid any kind of third-party interference. Of course, there was the overhang of what happened in 1948 when India took the Kashmir issue to the United Nations. So this would have again been a strategic blunder, according to Mr. Keval Singh. The world in those cases, back in the 70s, it was the heady days of non-alignment, etc., would always tend to favor the underdog or the smaller nation over a larger one in the instance of a dispute between these two countries. But the issue, again, comes down to, forget about the political war of words. You can question the timing, you can question, why now, what were governments doing for 50 years. There is a security, there is an economic, even a cultural paradigm which cannot be ignored. While the scale of this island may be unimportant, it is small, it is just 1.5, 1.6 kilometers long. The location of it is key. Kachchatheevu is located in the Pak Straits between India and Sri Lanka. The island has been a point of contention. The region's geopolitics, particularly its recent proximity, Sri Lanka's recent proximity to China, whether it is the Hambantota port, whether it is the international shipping terminal, the container terminal that they're building in Colombo. According to recent reports, the Sri Lankan government recently leased out land around the Deft Island and around Katchatheevu to Chinese power companies to see if they can extract power from the islands around that area. Katchatheevu has a potential to serve as some kind of a base for naval activities by Chinese Navy, if, of course, the Sri Lankan government allows that to happen. Many Indian fishermen and their livelihoods depend on access to these waters. Remember, there have been multiple instances. Yesterday, the External Affairs Minister listed out there are about 6,000 cases where Indian fishermen had been detained over the last 30 years because they were fishing in waters around Katchatheevu. There's also ambiguity around the agreements, which has led to the arrest of many fishermen, the confiscation of their equipment, and this is a constant running problem for fisher folks around that entire coastal belt. And it's not just around Ramanathapuram, around Katchatheevu. This, of course, comprises about 5 to 6 constituencies, which I'll explain on the magic wall later on in the program. But Katchatheevu also holds cultural and religious significance for both people in Sri Lanka as well as in India. It is home to a St. Anthony shrine, which is an important religious site for pilgrims from both countries. So, was it a historic blunder to have given away Katchatheevu almost on a platter to the then Sri Lankan government under Sirimavu Bandaranaike and to the BJP? Why rake up these old ghosts, rake up these skeletons from the cupboard from 50 years ago? Let me now open this up. A full panel joining us here on the broadcast. Mr. T.K. Silangovan is senior leader of the DMK, chief spokesperson of the DMK party. Sanju Verma is national spokesperson of the BJP. Mohan Kumar Mangalam, spokesperson of the Congress party. Shekhar Iyer is senior journalist, and R.K. Radhakrishnan, also senior journalist, now joining us. Mr. T.K. Silangovan, let me start with you first. There is, as per this RTI reply that runs into 31 pages, Mr. Keval Singh, who was then the Foreign Secretary, had multiple conversations with Mr. Karunanidhi, who was the Chief Minister then. And in this instance, Mr. Keval Singh tells Mr. Karunanidhi that, look, if we go to the ICJ, we don't even have a case. Mr. Karunanidhi, as per this RTI, tells Mr. Keval Singh, while in private, I agree with your stand, I'm willing to go with your stand. In public, because of political pressures, I cannot back this stand. So where then, sir, is the BJP is asking your party, where then is Dravidian ideology? Where then is the Tamil interests that you claim to be the custodians of? If Mr. Karunanidhi was saying, in private I will back you, but in public I will not back you.
No, the agreement between Sri Lanka and India during 1974 was very clear. It was about pushing the maritime boundary a little towards India. That agreement categorically stated that all the islands and islets in between the old maritime boundary and the new maritime boundary can be used by both the countries. That is what the agreement of 1974, which was placed before the Parliament, speaks. Even at that time, they have discussed about pushing the maritime boundary towards India with the CM. But Kachchatheevu, in that case, it was very clear that Kachchatheevu shall be used by both the countries. That was the agreement at that time in 1974. So the question of giving away Kachchatheevu is still, but the DMK, Mr. Iraj Elian was the leader of the DMK party in Parliament. He opposed it strongly. He said that maritime boundary, pushing the maritime boundary is different from giving away Kachchatheevu. how can the Kachchatheevu be used by both the countries? That is what his question. He opposed it. At the same time, this Tamil Nadu Assembly also had passed a resolution against this. So the question of giving away Katchatheevu was not the issue at that time. It was about pushing the maritime boundary towards India was the question.
No, but
was
Mr.
only
Mr.
placed
Elangovan,
before the Parliament.
by doing that, by pushing the maritime boundary, de facto, if not de jure, Katchatheevu became Sri Lankan territory. Today it is Sri Lankan territory.
Yeah, but that at that time in 1974, it was the same agreement contained this paragraph also, that all the islands and islets in between both the boundaries shall be used by both the countries. That was also there. Even then we opposed it.
Okay.
But after our government was dismissed in 1976, then this clause was removed. Until then, as long as we were in power, this clause was not there. It was there in the agreement.
So tell me, Mr. Elangovan,
Every
before I open
opposition
this up
party opposed
to the
it.
rest
How
of our
can you
panel, in 1976, the fishing agreement came into place, which restricted Indian fishermen from fishing around Katchatheevu. Your party has been in power from 1967, intermittently, virtually every 5 years or every 10 years in Tamil Nadu. You have been in alliance, first with the Vajpayee government from 1999 to 2004, and then from 2004 to 2014 in the UPA. What did you do to address this issue?
See, we had opposed, even our leader had gone to court in this matter, gone to Supreme Court, but the government of India had made a different statement, and so the case, I think the case is still pending. It must be pending because they have not read any judgment on that case, but we had gone to court opposing giving away Katchatheevu to Sri Lanka, because it is in the registry of Ramnath Raja of who were ruling that part of India at that time.
Okay.
So we said that Katchatheevu should not be given.
So Sanju Verma, let me now open this up to the rest of our panelists. Sanju Verma, isn't it rather convenient for the BJP that within a month before the Tamil Nadu elections, your state president, who's also a contestant in this upcoming election from the seat of Coimbatore, files an RTI request on the 4th of March. Within a week, on the 11th of March, the reply is given by the government of India, and all of these details come out into the public domain. If this is not political and if this is not with an eye on the elections, then what is? And also to the second question that the DMK and Congress are asking, for 10 years, the Modi government has been in power. What have you done to bring back Kachchatheevu?
Okay, Zaka, I find it amusing. I'm not going to be agitated by the fact that no matter who does anything, हमेशा कटघरे में बीजेपी खड़ी होती है. You always try and train your guns on the BJP rather than asking questions of people who actually, I did not interrupt. I don't know who's this person who's trying to heckle me. Please wait for your turn. Thank you. I don't need any background music. Who was in power between 1974 and 2014? For the longest time, in these 4 decades, in the 40 years between 74 and 2014, it was the Congress which was in power at the center and DMK which was in power in Tamil Nadu. So my first point is the Congress and DMK have been in cahoots with each other. As S. Jaishankar said, it is not the question of who did it, but it is the question of who hid it. First and foremost, DMK has 2 different, points of view. A private view hai, and then there is the public view. You accuse the BJP of politicizing it, but the DMK in every manifesto, ahead of every election, says we are going to get back Katchatheevu. It's a classic case of, Chori bhi or Sina Jori bhi. It is the DMK which signed the General Acceptance Agreement on the 19th of June 1974. And then 1974, 26 June, Indira Gandhi accepted. Basically, Indira Gandhi and Karunanidhi had a consensus कि Kachchatheevu को दे देना है Sri Lanka को, because we want to de-escalate the growing tensions. We want to improve bilateral ties. For a minute, let me just, assume that what Indira Gandhi had in mind was born out of bona fide intent. What Karunanidhi had in mind was born out of bona fide intent. They indeed wanted to de-escalate, demilitarize, and wanted to enhance bilateral ties. You tell me, Zaka, despite giving away 285 acres of Kachchatheevu, did the bilateral ties then between Sri Lanka and India improve? No. I don't want to go into the details of the Indian peacekeeping force and what happened by way of that LTTE fiasco, the brainchild of Rahul Gandhi's father, Rajiv Gandhi, with more than 36,000 Tamilian ultras, tigers and civilians killed, more than 9,000 people on the Indian side killed, including more than 4,000 of our armed forces and naval troops. I'm not getting into that. My limited point is this. When you accuse the BJP of politicizing it, I want to ask you, have you not politicized it ahead of every single assembly election in Tamil Nadu? What did you do for 40 years? Thank God for the Modi government. Forget the timing. At least we are now bringing this entire issue into the public discourse so that the people of Tamil Nadu know that only ahead of elections, Karunanidhi and Cabal say Kachchatheevu ko वापस लाएंगे. The moment elections are over, Kachchatheevu is thrown into the garbage bin. But the BJP is not going to do that. Just 10 seconds more. Before you take the moral high ground, I have been asked questions in the last 24 hours by Congress and DMK spokespersons. What about the land border agreement between India and Bangladesh? You guys gave away 10,000 acres of territory to Bangladesh. Let me tell you, even the land border agreement was signed between Indira Gandhi and Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, her counterpart in Bangladesh, way back in 1974. We were committed to give them 10,000 acres as part of the agreement that was signed so that we could do a proper fencing of the Indo-Bangladesh border, which runs into 4,097 kilometers. Because that LDA was never adhered to, the Indo-Bangladesh border fencing could not be done. And thanks to the Modi government, today more than 3,436 kilometers along the Indo-Bangladesh border has been fenced because we did what Indira Gandhi should have done in terms of sticking
I don't want to bring in the Bangladesh angle into this, but let me ask Mohan Kumar Mangalam. The idea of this entire controversy, if your contention is that this whole thing is orchestrated, two things. There were two agreements, one in 1974, the other in 1976. 1974 was the giving away, quote unquote, of Katchatheevu, and to get it back, you have to go against the Vienna Convention on Legal Treaties, etc., which may be diplomatically fraught with risk. But what if the attempt here is to change the 1976 agreement, which has material value for the fishermen of Tamil Nadu, to try and amend it in a way that they have fishing rights around Katchatheevu? If tomorrow Modi is able to secure that, and after all the Modi government can rightfully claim, when Sri Lanka was in the economic doldrums, no other country came and gave it the kind of money. $4.5 billion is what India gave to Sri Lanka. The Chinese did not. Tomorrow, if they're able to get some kind of concession on fishing rights for Tamil fishermen around Katchatheevu, then rightfully they can turn around and ask, why couldn't the DMK and the Congress do this for the last 50 years?
Saka, the agreement of 1976 gave them the fishing rights around Kachchatheevu as an exclusive economic zone, but gave us exclusive fishing rights on the Wedge Bank, which is a 10,000 square kilometer submarine plateau, supposedly, home to more than 60 species of fishes and oceanic animals, largely one of the richest fishing resources in all of India. So if we are going to take back that area, then we might have to give back the Wedge Bank. And, we're conflating the issue of Katchatheevu with the arrest of fishermen. I'll have you know that if you talk to the former High Commissioner of India to Sri Lanka, Mr. Ashok Kanta, who's been on quite a few shows in the last few days, he'll tell you in his experience as well that most of the arrests of these fishermen are nowhere near Katchatheevu. It is absolutely not a problem in that area. In fact, there are these larger boats that go from Thoothukudi and Kanyakumari and actually fish almost near the edge of the maritime border, and those are those boats that are getting taken away, and those are the arrests that are happening. And by the way, there has been no reduction in the arrests and no reduction in the seizures since Mr. Modi came to power. If you look at as far back as 2003, the entire number would be about 6,500 odd, of which 3,000 has happened, 3,300 odd is in the last decade when Mr. Modi has been in power. You're right, we've given billions of dollars in credit as well as grants to the Sri Lankan government. This would have been a time if the Prime Minister genuinely felt that Katchatheevu is the reason for the fishing problem, the fishermen's problems, that he could have negotiated some sort of lease rights to get it back. To say that he might do in the future, I highly doubt it. He's only using this as he does every other issue he brings out from the past which is for the electoral purpose, since they don't have any issue to compete in Tamil Nadu on.
No, but Mohan, please answer this. No, please answer this. If Kachchatheevu was not given away, and if Kachchatheevu was Indian territory, what stops you from saying that, maybe the shooting of the Sri Lankan fishermen, maybe the detainment, the arrest, this issue could have been better handled. That's one part of it. And second, what if tomorrow the Chinese... No, once again, I'm not done. What if tomorrow the Sri Lankans give, let's say, mining rights or exploration rights to the Chinese around Katchatheevu? They can very well say Katchatheevu is Sri Lankan territory.
You don't think that the fact that they've given a massive port to the Chinese is a problem in itself? Is that not close enough for us to think that that's a problem? That's maybe why the Indian government is maintaining friendly relations with the Sri Lankans and doling out as much as it is in credit.
No, that's a stupid allegation.
Right.
No, one second. Let me finish.
I am not going to let someone interrupt me and start making
you finish,
attacks.
and then...
you finish. I will not stand for the word stupid being used.
Okay, fair enough.
You reprimand her right now? Or
please mind your language.
Mind your language.
Please mind the language. No, 1 second, ma'am. Please. No foul language on the show, no. And I'm not going to get diverted. Mohan, finish your point.
As my point goes, there are strategic interests that the Chinese have not only in Sri Lanka but in all border countries today. They have been investing ad nauseum in these countries to try and create a wall around us. And these are issues that anyway the government should be concerned about.
Okay.
If they do come to Katchatheevu, it would be a massive red flag. And it's at that point that if we have a friendly relationship with Sri Lanka, we can ensure that doesn't happen.
Okay, 10 seconds, Sanju Verma, quick response. And then I want to show something on the magic wall before I go to RK and to Shekhar Iyer. Yeah.
Zaka, I don't know why the Congress spokesperson got so itchy when I used the term stupid allegation when they have used worse language for the Prime Minister on your show. And you've been a mute spectator. I don't know why you got so itchy today.
No, 1 second. I don't take bad language from anyone. If Mohan had used it, I would have reprimanded him, just like I'm reprimanding you. But go ahead, make the material point, please. Please make the material point. Sanju Verma, please make the material point.
Yeah, don't be a hypocrite, Zaka.
Please make the material point.
I'm making the material point, don't try to rush me. My material point is this. Who gave away 38,000 square kilometers of Aksai Chin, saying not a blade of grass grows there? It was Nehru who capitulated in front of the Chinese in 1962. It was the then Prime Minister Pandit Nehru who gave away large parts of Chhabji Valley, Chumur, Demjok, who allowed the fall of Fort Zarawar in Demjok. It all happened under the long and incompetent nose of Jawaharlal Nehru, who gave away large parts of Rann of Kutch to Pakistan. It was Indira Gandhi who gave away large parts of Kashmir, which we now call as POK, to Pakistan. It was Indira Gandhi. And then Mohan Kumar Mangalam sits here and gives a bhashan to the BJP. We don't need your lessons because you surrender.
All right, I'm now moving on to the magic wall, and I want to show to our viewers why politically, the BJP thinks this issue might have resonance in the state of Tamil Nadu. Let me just bring this up on the map, and I showed this yesterday as well, as to why the BJP is raking this issue up ahead of elections, because it thinks it might... Remember, there are two parts to it. One is the historic part, which may or may not have resonance, but certainly the fishermen being shot at by Sri Lankan Navy or being arrested, detained by Sri Lankan Navy, certainly is a very resonant issue. So, by raking up Katchatheevu and framing it in a way that had that island not been given away, then perhaps this issue would not be as grave as it is today. Now, here are the constituencies, and it goes all the way from the deep south of Tamil Nadu, from Kanyakumari to Thoothukudi, and of course the closest constituency happens to be that of Ramanathapuram, where the BJP alliance has fielded the former Chief Minister, Mr. OPS, O Pannirselvam, from that constituency, and it goes all the way up to Nagapattinam. So it's about 5 or 6 constituencies where, of course, in the last election, the DMK swept. It had a 54% vote share, the DMK alliance that is, as opposed to the NDA, which had a 20% vote share, and the ADMK, which only had a 10% vote share. Now, this is very interesting because you would imagine that, in normal Tamil Nadu elections, parliament elections or assembly elections, that the ADMK would be the second larger party, especially in an election which the DMK and its alliance swept. But in this case, the ADMK was third. It was only 10% vote share. The NDA had almost double of that at close to 20% vote share. Now, here is the interesting thing. Out of these 6 constituencies, 4 of these constituencies, the BJP is fighting directly against the DMK candidate there. So let's go from the south. In Kanyakumari, you have, I think, Mr. Punna Radhakrishnan, who is a former union minister. He's contesting. In the neighboring constituency of Tirunelveli, you have Nainar Nagendran, who is contesting. In Thoothukudi, which they've given to an ally, I believe a standalone ally is fighting there. And of course, I mentioned the OPS seat, which is the Ramanathapuram seat, which is the closest to the Katchatheevu island. And then, of course, in both the seats of Nagapattinam as well as Tanjavur, the BJP is contesting. So the BJP is hoping that in a region, in a set of seats, coastal seats, where this issue has resonance and where it came second, it is hoping that by raking this issue up and framing it in a way that it's the DMK which gave it away and the Congress that gave it away, and had they not given it away, then perhaps the fishermen issue would not be as grave as it is today. They are hoping that this issue will give them a leg up in the fishermen community, in the fishermen constituency, as it were, by the way, which is spread across the state. So the fisherfolk community goes all the way from North Madras down to Kanyakumari, estimated to be anywhere between 10 to 15 lakh. So if the BJP gets some kind of a leg up in that constituency, they are hoping in these half a dozen seats where they finished second, or the NDA alliance finished second last time around, that they will be able to edge past the DMK. But be that as it may, let me ask both RK and Shekhar for their thoughts on this. Because RK, I just explained on the magic wall what perhaps the political thinking is. And yes, the DMK and the Congress have a point when they say, why rake this up now? This is a 50-year-old dispute. But the framing of it, A, to show up, not just the DMK, but also the ADMK, because I believe this is a three-cornered fight in Tamil Nadu, that the so-called custodians of Dravidian politics and Tamil pride, what were they doing when Katchatheevu was given away?
Thank you for the opportunity, Zaka. History, unfortunately, doesn't start when the BJP or we want it to start, and doesn't end when, the Prime Minister or the External Affairs Minister wants it to end. Let us remember that Dr. Jaishankar was the first Secretary Political Affairs in Sri Lanka between 1988 and 1990. He was the main political advisor to the IPKF, which, of course, had an inglorious exit from Sri Lanka. Having said that, let me come to Kachchatheevu. I was posted in Sri Lanka during the time that Ashok Kant also was posted there. I have seen the fishermen's issue was at the zenith at that point of time. Fishermen's issue has nothing to do with Katchatheevu. Fishermen fish very close to the Sri Lankan waters, because Sri Lankan coastline, because that is where the fish is. There is no fish from Ramanathapuram onwards, from the coastline in Tangachibadam or Rameshwaram to way past Delf Island. Till that, bottom trawling has ensured that there is absolutely not any fish at all, zero fish, so to speak of. The other thing, you can only give something that you already have. India didn't have Katchatheevu at any point of time. It was a place in dispute. You go to 1921, where the Raja of Ramnad, the Madras Presidency and the Collector of Ceylon had sat down for a meeting, and all their objections were noted, in the sense that Raja of Ramnad told that he was collecting rent from there. The Collector of Ceylon made it clear that it was his territory and whatnot. From 1921, this issue was tested, and let us not forget the 1971 war, where refueling facilities for Pakistan were provided in Colombo. So for Indira Gandhi and the Congress, it was a strategic issue to, one, drive out any other third party, third force from the seas surrounding Katchatheevu and the Pak Strait and, of course, Gulf of Mannar. And as far as Sri Lanka was concerned, it was an assurance that India will be the benign neighbor, which will give up claim to some territory in return for joint prospects in the Vaj Bank and south of Kanyakumari.
No, but RK, what about to the point, and I think the RTI mentions this in some detail, about how this whole thing was done because of the friendship between Indira Gandhi and Sirimao. And Indira Gandhi was coming off from the highs of winning the 1971 Bangladesh war. This was her way of trying to become statesman-like, if you will, to the other neighbors. And you're right when you say that Pakistani jets were being refueled there in the Bangladesh war. So she wanted to take the bigger view, be the bigger brother, if you will, in that sense, in this relationship. And therefore, because of their friendship, she saw no harm or no political strategic value in giving away a small piece of land.
There are two issues in this, because in West Bengal, again, we see the same issue. When Berubari was about to be given away, B.C. Roy goes to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says that you cannot give away Indian territory unless you make a constitutional amendment to it. So it's very clear that India did not have custody of Kachchatheevu. It was a disputed land, one. Number two was that soon after this 1974 agreement of June, 2 months later, another agreement is signed on the repatriation of plantation Tamils to India. This is the second part of the agreement. The first part of the agreement was between Sirimavo and Lal Bahadur Shastri. So that process was a very smooth process in 1974, and the repatriation went on till around 83, 84. So India had set up a station in Colombo and of course a station in Kandy as well. So just to make sure that the plantation Tamils were safe and they returned to India in one piece. These two were part of the agreement, and we see that the DMK and ADMK manifestos since then have reflected this taking back Katchatheevu, whereas the BJP manifesto of even 2014 or even 2019 does not say taking back Katchatheevu. This is an electoral issue. They want to make it an electoral issue. It is not an electoral. There is no resonance on the ground in Tamil Nadu right now.
So Shekhar Iyer, if there's no resonance for this issue in Tamil Nadu right now, why is the BJP raking it up? And B, like I showed on the magic wall, if in these 6 constituencies, it's not going to have an impact, because RK says, other than in Ramanathapuram, no other constituency on this coastal belt do fishermen go and fish around Kachchatheevu. Then why is, from the Prime Minister, the External Affairs Minister, the State BJP President, they're all throwing the kitchen sink on this issue? Why?
Zaka, it is not that the BJP is raking it up. It is actually a counter-defense mechanism. If the issue did not have resonance, why was Stalin speaking about it on March 16th? Why has the DMK tried to, distance itself from the Karunanidhi legacy to this issue? The problem is, in this election and in every election, in fact, right from 1991, when Jayalalitha made it an issue in the August 15th Independence Day address, that Kachchatheevu was given away, and since then DMK and ADMK has been even competing among themselves to make a claim and come to the Supreme Court. Here, this time, the BJP wants to show, look, the problem has a beginning, genesis in the agreement, for which Karunanidhi was a part, for whatever reasons. But you are putting the blame on us. So the whole idea of this RTI and Prime Minister response is only to show that the DMK has a legacy to it. Because here, Ilangovan mentioned about Eracharian. In fact, Eracharian was a lone voice who opposed this agreement, because there was a lot of problem, and since Karunanidhi had decided that for whatever reason, and there were reasons were political, not just strategic, because Karunanidhi was keen to have a olive branch with Indira Gandhi. And their relationship have been off and on during that period. So there were political reasons, and at this moment, the purpose of the Prime Minister and Jaishankar is to show, look, this is a problem that has genesis during your period. And because all the time in Parliament, the DMK has been also asking, what have you done in 10 years? What has the Prime Minister done? And the third element, Zaka, which is very, very interesting, because the DMK also knows, the Congress knows, there have been back-channel contacts between Colombo and New Delhi to see how the harassment of the Indian fishermen can be cut down. Because even this, the rights, fishing rights, there was a lot of confusion right from the beginning. Sri Lanka understood it as Indian fishermen visiting the island during that festival at the St. Anthony's Church, and for drying their nets, not for fishing. So this misinterpretation and the fact that the fishermen have had a problem. You remember, during the 2014 election, Sushma Swaraj had visited those villages where the schemes were talked about. The Indian fishermen should go in for better boats with GPS system. They should go into more deeper sea for fishing. So there is an issue. But Kachchatheevu is such an emotional issue because the blame is sought to be put on the BJP.
All right, Mr. Ilangovan, please respond for you. Yeah, one second. Mr. Ilangovan, for the last 10 years, you're asking, I think many MPs have asked in Parliament also what you're doing about Kachchatheevu. But the RTI is now showing that Mr. Karunanidhi was as much a participant to this decision as the Congress party back then was.
No, he had passed a resolution in the State Assembly. Our party leader, Iraj Chelian, had spoken in the Parliament. He is party to the case in the Supreme Court. Apart from all these things, the External Affairs Minister says that he has written 21 letters to Stalin. What was found in the 21 letters is why these fishermen should go beyond the maritime border, Indian maritime border. That is what he is saying. If they go, they will be arrested. That is the letter which was written by Jaishankar. They did not take any action. They are bringing Kachchatheevu only because Stalin had written to the government of India to get back the fishermen who were arrested and put in prison in Sri Lanka, and to give back the boats which was captured by Sri Lanka. For this answer, they are diverting the issue. They don't want to save the fishermen, but they are talking about a piece of land. There are fishermen who are in the prisons, but they are bothered about land only because to hide that they could not save the fishermen, they are doing this.
Sanju Verma, the focus should have been on the fishermen and what you can do to bring the fishermen back. Rather than that, you're talking about a 1.5 kilometer long piece of land.
You know, Zaka, first and foremost, let me make it very clear, 1.5 kilometers or 14 nautical miles or 285 acres is not the point. The point is simply this, that in 1961-62, Nehru said it's a little rock, referring to Katchatheevu. He said it's just a, a small inconsequential piece of territory, and he doesn't want to be bothered by these inconsequential issues. And then Indira Gandhi said it's an uninhabited cluster of land and rocks. So the first point I'm making is, look at the audacity and the gall of the Congress party, Nehru and then his daughter Indira Gandhi, dismissing 285 acres of land as if ye unki personal jagir thi. But one point which none of your panelists have said, with no offense to Mr. R.K. Radhakrishnan, who's a senior journalist, you are talking about S. Jaishankar then being, foreign secretary, blah, blah, blah. Nobody seems to be making this point that when we signed Zaka, the Indo-Sri Lankan Maritime Agreement, why is it that the DMK played a very crucial role? Because under List 3 and the 7th schedule of the Constitution, maritime interests were a part of the concurrent list. And that is the reason that first Karunanidhi gave his general acceptance, and it is then that Indira Gandhi swung into action once she knew she had Karunanidhi on her side of the fence, and then they effected this treaty which was lopsided, one-sided. But I want to tell you one thing. For everybody who's asking what has the BJP or the Modi government done, do you know the single biggest thing which nobody is talking of is when Prime Minister Narendra Modi last year met President Ranil Wickremesinghe. What did he say to Wickremesinghe? He said there are two things which you have not done, despite the fact that there was a treaty which was signed in 1987 between Rajiv Gandhi and J.R. Jayawardene. As part of the treaty, it was decided that there would be a 13th amendment, 13th amendment to the Sri Lankan constitution, whereby A, Tamil would be made one of the official languages of Sri Lanka to give indigenous rights to the Tamil-speaking people there, and B, provincial elections would be held in 9 provinces of Sri Lanka where indigenous Tamils form a majority. And Ranil Wickremesinghe said, yes, we will now be effecting the 13th amendment to make Tamil an official language in Sri Lanka and hold elections in 9 Tamil-dominated provinces so that local Tamil-speaking people are at par with the Sinhalese population. This is what Modi has done, which DMK failed to do.
I don't think either of that has come to fruition in Sri Lanka, but we'll leave that for another day. Thank you very much to all our guests for joining us here on the broadcast. Like I said, we will wait to see what the electoral impact, if any, of this is, but surely the political impact will be judged, of course, in the context of the elections. And like I said, the BJP is hoping that amongst the fisher folk for whom this whole arrest and detention and even some instances shooting of Tamil fishermen by the Sri Lankan Navy is a very live and resonant issue, that the BJP is hoping that by framing this as the giving away of a parcel of Indian territory to Sri Lanka 50 years ago, which was the root cause of this, the BJP is hoping that they will have some kind of salience within the fisherfolk community in Tamil Nadu across these 6-odd districts, these 6-odd parliamentary constituencies. We'll wait and see if that comes to fruition on the 4th of June. Meanwhile,